Um, as I said that we'll start by 10 past 8, I think the time allows us to start. Let me again greet those who recently joined us, and then welcome you guys to our session. Uh, and then you guys are probably asking ourselves, where are we actually coming from? My name is Seome Michael, and then I'm the founder of Emmarentia Agriculture Institute. And then, as part of our interventions, we then decided that we will have uh, weekly research teachings. And then, as part of the teachings, we are here today to talk about how to effectively read research articles. It's all just about learning how do you best read research articles. And then this is probably targeted to those who are doing research, maybe as honors, masters, and also PhD student. But then we also have some undergrad students who are willing to learn this process, because they are going to need this process as they will be busy doing their writing report, and then also uh, other things, especially when they will be doing their is it honors next year also. Also, am I audible on your side before I start with the session?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. So these rules, I adopted them from this other editorial, which I referenced, and then you all will see it at the end of this session. But then I also did some reading apart from that editorial, so that I can beef up whatever that is presented or whatever that is guided on the editorial. So the reading steps, they are actually simple, and then they are as just 10 as they look on the screen. The first one, it's pick your reading goal. And then the second rule, it's understand the author's goal. The third one, it's where you have to ask yourself some basic 6 questions. And then the fourth one, it's where you have to unpack the present figure and also table in that particular article. And then the fifth rule, it's where you have to now understand the formatting intentions. And then the sixth one, it's where you have to be critical. Seventh, be kind. And then eighth rule, it's where you have to be ready to go an extra mile. Then the ninth rule, uh, you have to talk about the article that you read. And then the 10th rule is where you have to build on the article. So let me unpack these basic rules as I was just outlining them. So let's look at the first one, where you have to pick your reading goal. Here, the table, it's showing you some intentions, more like goals, and then what should influence your approach probably when you are reading that specific article. So let's look at the intentions and then probably delve into the priorities. There are various intentions normally when someone reads an article, but then as researchers, we normally read research articles when we want to build on them, probably getting new information, and then also uh, trying to write or trying to find what are the actual gaps that exist in literature where maybe you and your supervisor would like to build on, which is just a normal thing that we are all used to. But then remember that before you start with your research, you will be new to reading scientific articles. So the first intention, uh, maybe you are not just reading to try to build that, to try to build on the article, but then you are reading to just understand what is actually uh, scientific articles. Because someone will just talk uh, that we have scientific papers, we have scientific articles, but then as a new person who's entering into the field, maybe they don't know what is actually scientific papers. So that is actually that can be a goal for you to just introduce yourself into uh, uh, what scientific papers are, and that is basically encourageable for those who will be doing their honors to just go and check what is actually this scientific article. But then the other key thing that can also motivate your reading when you are actually new to the field, and then you want to see what is actually important in that specific field. Maybe I'm a soil scientist, maybe I want to go into agronomy. Then I will read an article from agronomy side so that I can understand what is actually yeah, what is important in agronomy. And then when I want to just understand, or when I'm just entering into the field, it is advisable that I should focus more on the beginning and also the end. That could just help me to just understand the field and also learn what is key into in the field. And then the other thing that can also be an intention or that could influence your reading, it's when you just receive automated alerts. Maybe you are on your internet. Google normally does that, where you just see that there are actually papers that are coming from other fields. But then when you see those articles which are not related to what you are doing, you just have to skim the entire work, and then you think about how it fits into the author's broader publication history. But then skimming is actually uh, advisable when you just receive alerts. And then you can also receive alerts to notify you maybe of the latest publication containing maybe set of keywords. Um, and then because you want to be aware of new ways, of new techniques, because science is also it's continually evolving, and that could also be an intention where you want to learn about new techniques or new development in a particular topic. And then if you want, if that is your intention or if that is your goal, then you just have to focus in the method and then the motivation for the approach. Why did they use a specific technique? And then yeah, how did they use it and why was the motivation? And then that is normally found in the introduction. And then sometimes the other intention is when you are asked to review an article prior to publication, but then this normally is tied to those who are actually who have advanced into the field, where they have published a lot of things, but then a lot of work. Uh, so this one, let's not really delve into it because it's talking about those who are familiar with the field, those who have a good publication history. But then, even them, if they want to read with that intention of reviewing the article, what they do is to just uh, look at But then I normally say you can't review an article if you don't know what is happening in the field. And even the editors, they can't really send an article to someone who has not been publishing in that specific field or area. So this one is normally tied to peer reviewing. So let's move to the second rule. Remember that the first one is where you had to have your own goal of reading, and there were various goals or intentions. And then now we have to now come to the author's goal, which is our second rule. When after you have identified your goal, uh, you need to also think about the author's goal. Remember, yes, people they say that research it can increase your publication, it can do what. But then the primary thing of doing research, it's when we want to share a specific outcome that we normally got from those results. So you have to understand their goal. Why did they want to publish uh, this article? What message are they conveying with this article? Yes, the article will have those basic components, your abstract, your introduction, those type methods, materials, but then there has to be a goal of that of why they are sharing that type of article. And sometimes it's conveyed as the aim of that. You find that they will say that the aim of this work, just a single sentence is telling you what was actually the goal of the work, but then it has so many components. So you have to understand their goal. This will actually help you to 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 read better. And then remember that once you understand the goal, you will be able to go to, when you go to the results, be able to interpret the data. And then as you interpret the data, remember you are the reader, but then there are authors who wrote that paper. It's not about you, even though they wanted to push a certain narrative when they were publishing that article, but then they also have to put themselves into your shoes. But even yourself, you have to put yourself into their shoes so that you can understand clearly why these results it's interpreted this way. You need to understand, but then they also wrote that paper in understanding that someone else will try to read and make sense of what is actually happening. But then for you to get this one clearly, you need to know who are actually these authors. And then I will tell you that once you know that there's maybe, give an example, maybe there's I don't know the name. Let me just get another. Maybe there's Ratanlal who's publishing a certain work, maybe in soil science. Uh, you need to understand Ratanlal, not just him as the one that is presented on the paper, but then you need to go and check his history. What type of work has he been publishing? And then once you know that, once you will be able to it will help you to interpret actually their data. And then remember that the reason why you have to know the author is that people normally they don't just publish the same type of work. What they will normally do is that you would see that maybe 5 articles they are maybe talking about agronomy, but then there's also another one where it's talking about plant protection. And then you then now try to make sense of uh, how does this article fit into this author's research. If he was publishing on agronomy, but then now he's coming as a is now publishing protection works. What was actually missing that he wanted to actually send out as he delved into protection, which is normally something that as readers we don't do, and that thing is actually killing us in our own research, because we don't care about who the author is, and then why did they go into this direction? Were they even doing this previously, or maybe this is something new? Why did they do this in the first place? Because it's critical that you have that, so that you can build on other people's work. Even yourself, it can help you to build your own research. It can help you to keep on modifying the goal, maybe to even help you to grow, and then maybe become someone who can go into various disciplines as he try to answer some of the research questions that they probably have. Yes, you can come as an agronomist, but then if you now see that with this agronomy, I'm just flying, I'm not touching the ground. Maybe I need to go to soil, or maybe I need to find someone who understands some certain, maybe someone who also do what is this post harvest. That's how you then become aware of these guys, and then you help. It will help you better to make your reading. You understand your reading better, and then let's go to the rule number 3, where you have to ask yourself 6 questions. Because if you just read and you read and you read and you don't ask yourself these 6 questions, I would say that you are reading a novel rather than a research article. There is a different, there's a huge difference between a research paper and then a novel, uh, and even some other books. Maybe there are motivational books that people uh, uh, they read, but then when you come to read research articles, you need to ask yourself these critical questions. So if you look at the rules that I talked about, the first one, the second one, and even this one, they are not in isolation. They are actually tied together. So some information, it may look repetitive, but then they are actually tied uh, together. So these six key critical questions, you need to ask yourself these questions. And I would suggest that those who are actually new into the field, even those who are not new, but then for your reading to become critical, you need to uh, continually ask yourself these questions. Maybe you can just, on the very same paper that you're reading, maybe you draft them and then you ask yourself these questions. So in asking yourself this question, what you first need to know is who the authors, what do the authors want to know? What is actually the motivation of this type of work? And then the motivation, sometimes they will tell you that maybe there's a knowledge gap. Sometimes they will tell you that maybe they are missing things that actually motivated us to do this type of work. And then once you know the motivation behind that article, you need to now ask yourself, uh, what was the approach? If they had this motivation and they were criticizing other works, not necessarily criticizing, but then they were building on other works, is their method similar to those other method, or maybe they changed something. What was actually the approach? And then also you also go to the context within the field. Why did they approach this in this way? And then you also go to the results. Is the results talking to the way they done it? And then you also go and then ask yourself, how did these authors interpret the results? And then after that, you ask yourself, from this type of reading that I was actually doing, what should be done next regarding? And then when you ask yourself this question, it's where you are now starting to build, because a lot of people they assume knowledge gaps, when actually there are a lot of knowledge gaps that they have been answered in that specific field. So you ask yourself, after I've read this article, what next should be done? Uh, is there something missing? But then, what is the way forward now? If I wanted to build on this type of work, uh, where should I go? What did they actually miss? So these key critical questions you need to continually ask yourself uh, after, even when you start, you need to put them down, and then after you read every article, you ask yourself if they were achieved or not. So let's now unpack. Uh, let's now unpack uh, each figure and a table that may be represented in a research article. Remember that a figure and a table, they are not actually the same, but then they represent the data that people have collected in their research um, endeavors. So as you try to unpack the figure, which this is uh, what people normally they don't do this one. People they just look at the figure and then that's it. That's why you normally find people who do line graphs, who do bar graphs, where they are supposed to be doing, maybe they represent their data as line graphs, when they are supposed to represent it maybe as a bar, maybe as a histogram, maybe as a pie chart, those type of things. A lot of people, a lot of us, when we unpack figures, we don't work to understand the x and the y axis. And we don't even care about the color scheme, about the statistical approach, even because there has to be a particular way people they are representing their data. It is not similar in various research articles. You find that people have different bar graphs, but then they are bar graphs. But then why are they different? Why do they have different color schemes? Why did the statistical approach differ in trying to address their research questions? So you need to understand. You need to work in understanding your x and y axis, and you need to understand actually the color scheme that is actually represented. Maybe someone used, for instance, maybe someone used light green, and then maybe someone, as maybe as the concentration increases, it goes to a darker green. And then you, because you did not care about the color scheme of figures, when you're supposed to represent concentrations increasing, you start using different colors. You are confusing the readers, because you're talking about the same thing, but then you are using actually different colors. So there has to be, you need to invest in understanding the figures. This will help you also to, when you plot your own figure, you won't confuse us. So when you know when you understand that figure, you will then understand if whatever that these authors, if they were whatever that they wanted us to see, is it coming in the figure? Is the data showing us whatever motivation that they presented to us? And then even the tables, you need to understand the tables. Tables, they are not just there for you to say this table, it has maybe you show mean letters and then you show uh, uh, a mean standard error and then that's it. No, there has to be, you have to understand the table in such a way that if there is something wrong with the table, you will pick it up and then maybe realize that the authors, maybe they are misleading us here, or maybe you don't understand. You need to go back and try to understand the figure, the table and the figure bed. But then remember that sometimes the figure, it has a caption, it has legend. Also, the legend and then the caption, they normally require you to go back to the method section, because I've seen a lot of people when they touch or when they read research articles, what they do is that they want to finish without even caring about whether they understand or what. Someone will say that I can read 10 articles per day, but do you care whether you understand or not? So when you try to unpack each figure and table, you need to scrutinize the caption. If the legend is there. But then remember, for you to understand that caption and also the legend, if it's there, you need to continually go back to the method section. Remember, the methods and materials, they're the ones that actually they are going to be reflected in the results. So you need not to shy away from continually going back to the methods and materials section, because someone will tell you that they use this statistical approach. Maybe they had mean letters, but then they are not represented there. So you need to continually not shy away, but continually go back to the methods. So the methods, you can understand the figure or table better without continually revisiting the method. So remember that uh, with whatever figure or table, in as much as the figure can have a lot of bars and a lot of what, but there has to be a take-home message from that figure. Not every result represented there is key, even on the table. Someone, maybe when you're presenting in a conference, they will ask you, can you please maybe tell us the take-home message from your figure one? But what did you find? You don't tell them that I saw mean letters, they were different, they were no, they want to know this, the take-home message, which is probably linked, not probably, it's linked to your hypothesis, to your objectives. uh, what does it tell us in relation to your objective? What does the table tell us? That's how you understand, you continually understand better if you can relate the figure and table to the methods. So when you read, you need to now do that thing of checking the figure caption and then revisiting the methods, and then what is actually the take-home message from this figure. And then also there is actually our rule 5 is talking about where you have to understand the formatting intentions. But then this one is it's talking about just the structure of the research article, of a primary research article. You would see the title, which is probably showing you the take-home message, because the title is actually telling you what you are going to get after reading the article. Uh, but then some titles, remember, they can people phrase them in a certain way, but normally the title is actually even built from the result. If you do it well, you have to develop your own title from your research results. And then uh, also, what is the presented as a primary, the author's list is what we are supposed to see, and then even the abstract. But then the other things here, they're just represented, but you can even read them in your spare time. So you know that the abstract will actually give you an overview of your research questions, the approach, the results, and also their interpretation. Normally, articles nowadays they follow that structured abstract approach, where the first lines maybe you'll see the problem, followed by the motivation, the methods, followed by the results and their interpretation, and maybe some followed by a take-home message. So this is what you need to imagine. You read an article, but then you don't even know the structure of the article. And then also um, on the introduction, remember the introduction is actually helping you to present the questions, and then why the questions they are. Why is it important for you to follow through with those questions? So as you are reading uh, research articles, these are the key things that should be with you, so that you understand better. You summarize research articles better. You just ask yourself, did they even have research questions? Sometimes they use hypothesis, and then did they even show us the importance of this type of work? Even the methods, there has to be there. You ask yourself, what was actually done? How was it done? Um, uh, 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 and then maybe people, they will tell you that their study area it's where then they followed this approach. They analyzed maybe carbon using this approach, and then this is how they set up their experimental design. And then the results, you ask yourself, what was found in this article? Is it even there? Did they show us what did they get? Some research, remember, the results, they are represented in figures, tables, those type of things. And then you go to the discussion. Remember, you can't read some. You don't just read as a plain person. You need to know that in the discussion section, this is what I am actually hoping or to find in that discussion section. What do the results mean, and then how do they relate to previous findings in literature? And then remember, you have to also know that that is not your article unless if it's you. Uh, 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 you when you read this work, you continually need to put yourself in the author's shoes. If they you see that maybe they should have done this, it's not your work. You need to know that I'm actually reading maybe to build on this work. They might have a different approach, but if what is in the discussion is actually found in that discussion, you need to uh, uh, allow them to be there. And then conclusion, do you see a brief summary of the implication of the results, and then also references and also other things. Um, Remember that some works, some articles, they normally tie results discussion. Some people, they just present their results and then the following sentence they tie it to their discussion. Even conclusion, some research articles, they are not there. I mean, the conclusion discussion sections. So it's up to you, the reader, to understand the formatting intentions. Why did they probably link maybe their results was, maybe the discussion was not that big, maybe those type of things. Maybe the conclusion, it's better summarized as part of the discussion. Maybe if they were to separate them, then they would kill the flow. Those type of things. You need to understand the formatting of that specific article. And then rule number 6, you have to be critical, obviously. Remember that critical thinking, it's a skill, a very tough skill that sometimes you need. You need to learn critical thinking. So as you try to become critical, you need to ask yourself: are there other equally likely or explanation for whatever is observed? So you try to, how do I say this? In a way, when you become critical, you are actually trying to judge the correctness, or I could say the quality of the paper. So as you become critical, those are the questions that you continually need to ask yourself. But you can't be critical uh, if you just if you are just that scientist that can read one article per month. No, where will you learn? You won't learn that critical thinking skill. Uh, you can't critique anything if you are just uh, scientist. And then, in addition to that, you need to pay attention to the biasness of the study. Uh, Remember that some authors, maybe in the method, they would miss something. So as you are becoming critical, it's when you know what is right, and then you test what is right with what you are finding in that paper. uh, uh, Maybe someone said that you need to replicate 3 times. You see that they did not replicate. Then you start to critique. You start to realize, oh, okay, these people, they're actually cutting corners. So after that, you need to ask yourself, as you're being critical. Uh, you ask yourself, did I even find this paper compelling? Uh, but then remember that as you are becoming the reader, as you are becoming critical, you need to isolate your own view, your own view of research uh, from what is actually true. You are not just becoming critical for the sake of being critical, but you need to know the facts. Remember, just because people did not do what you think they should have done, um, it does not necessarily say they did the wrong things. It might be that whatever that is on you is not actually the facts. So as you become critical, it's not your own notion of seeing things, but then it's what is it's facts. You can't say because uh, they did not put the graph like this, then it's not even compelling. No, it's your own things. So you need to test. The critical thing has to come from you understanding the facts. And then remember, eh, as you are becoming critical, you need to also cool yourself down. You put yourself in the author's shoes, because normally people, they just take one paper. I saw that with supervisors. I'm not a supervisor, but then I saw that with supervisors. Obviously, not my supervisor or anyone's supervisor, but the mentors. So what they do is that they will just crash your thing without even checking if it's correct, without even putting themselves into your shoes. So what you do before you start saying this is some work. So you need to realize that authors, they are human, and then they are subject to seeing things in a different way from you. They are subject to making mistakes. Sometimes you read a sentence, you say, I don't understand this sentence. What did they actually want to achieve? Then you say, sometimes it's not them. You need to go back and continually read. Just check if it's you or it's them. But then you need to understand that you are working with humans, human beings. You are also human being, so you need to have that humanity. Remember also, people, they have this thing of enforcing. Maybe you know that there is Molebata or something, or someone who's good, maybe you're good in this field, but then they did not cite your work. Maybe it's because of reference limit, or maybe they do not even see that work that you pushed. But then you need to put yourself into in their shoes. And then remember that even the tables, even the figures, uh, as you read, as you become critical, you may find some errors. So as someone who understand that human beings, they are subject to errors, mistakes, you need not to associate the mistakes with the quality of the work. uh, 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 so you need to continually be that human being as you are ready. Remember, even though it's frustrating, but try to just say that in as much as I want to critique this work, I'm expecting to find some mistakes, some mistakes that they might have done, obviously. And then sometimes, not sometimes, you need to be ready to go the extra mile, because people, when you find a research article, it has other people that they probably cited in their work. So you need to have that in you, that at a later stage I will need to go um, extra mile. Extra mile as a start, you need to check the supplementary files if they are there, uh, and then you need to read them with um, with the paper itself. Remember that when they are supplementary material, the authors, they don't just put them there for the sake of having more information, but they put them as a supplement to what they are saying. Even them, for them to get that quality, to get that paper out, they had to rely more on the supplement, as they relied more on the figures and tables that are present in the actual manuscript file. So I would I, would- I would I would say that as you are reading, you need to also go and check the supplementary file. Uh, and then also check even what the other people that they have cited. Remember, sometimes you find that they cited this person. You realize that I don't get this sentence, but then you as a reader, you need to be prepared to go to that article to actually understand what is presented on this article. So it's that extra mile that can help you to understand the authors better, to understand the article better. And then some uh, supervisors or mentors, they normally advise their mentees to read maybe an article 3 times. The first time you just read without the pressure of saying, I need to understand this work. No, you just read. You need not to have that that pressure of, at first I want to understand this. No, you need to have that thing of, okay, I have a lifetime of, not a lifetime, but I have 3 days of understanding this article. Then you read for the first time, uh, you just read without that pressure. Then you go to the second time, okay, I need to understand the paper. And then the third time, when you go, that's when you start taking notes. Now I'm going to take notes. You see, you don't have that pressure of the first time you just say, I'm going to take notes. No, you understand, and then you start by reading without that pressure. Then the second time you aim to understand, and then the third time that's when you can uh, take notes. Remember that people, they are actually different. You need to understand yourself better. You can't say because my mate or my research mate is doing this, that I will do that. Now you'll fall behind. Uh, so some people, when they want to engage with the paper, what they do is they print it out and then they start writing all over it. They write notes, they write so that they can understand it better. But this is not everybody. Some, they understand by just reading it from a soft copy. Uh, and even from a soft copy, you can even make notes. Some, they take notes using other tools, like they copy and then they do that with Microsoft Word. Uh, it depends on what actually works for you. But what is actually key is that you read, uh, understand, and then start taking notes that will allow you to actually have something to say about that paper at a later stage. And then that something to say is coming to rule number 9. And this is what I've seen most of us, we are not doing. We think that you can do research in secret. No, you'll become a mess in secret. You are that type of person who believes in not sharing with other people. No, you're just going to become your worst enemy. As a researcher, as someone who continuously read, you need to make sure that you talk about what you are reading uh, with other people. Yeah. Yes, you can have friends who are actually not in the same research, but then you need to have people whom you can talk to about the works that you are reading. It cannot just be those friends where you talk about social life. Yes, people, we do have social lives, but have other people where you can just say, hey, last night I picked this work, it was talking about this, and then I thought about this with that work. And it's encourative that people join journal clubs, lab meetings, and then there are also, you can even discuss with your mentors, maybe colleagues. You can meet them in person, or you can set up a meeting where you talk about what you are reading with them. And then even nowadays we see that social media is no longer about social, but people, they talk about research, they talk about what they're actually reading, what they're actually up to. So it's no longer about trends, it's also about education. So you can talk about it on Twitter. Maybe someone who's in Australia, who's in the same research area, they can pick it up, and then you start talking to them, you start commenting, and then you start saying that I see it works this way. So you have to allow yourself to become part of other people. You are not just doing your research maybe in UFS with your supervisor only, but then you're doing research with other people across the globe. You need to have that type of engagement. Maybe you also have those who are doing fourth year, maybe masters. You have other people who are doing masters. You just say, let's come together, let's develop this general club per week. Let's meet and then we talk about this. Then this is part of reading. It shows that you are reading. You're not just talking about. You are not just saying I'm a researcher without a proof. And remember that with everything that when you talk about it, this will actually help you um, uh, to put a nail on your understanding. You'll see there are gaps, you'll highlight them, you'll see those type of things while you are actually informing people who are next to you. And then this is probably why we read. As when we read, we normally don't just read. There are those who passionately read, but a lot of people, when they read on research, they normally want to build on the research. So the intention. So now here we are on building. Um, so as you build on the research, you need to how it connects to other research work, uh, yeah, or even within your work. Then you building on it by adopting a certain technique, or are you attempting? There's this other thing that uh, people do, but then they normally don't see it as a way of building. Uh, I normally say that in as much as you can solve your problem, a research problem in South Africa, maybe in a certain rural area. Uh, yes, it's a problem that is tied to that area, but then because you wrote, you are a researcher, you are going to cite other articles. As you are reading and citing them, you are actually trying to build from their works. So there is no, it can never be that someone will do an isolated research. Otherwise, uh, take the literature review component out of your work. Because the moment you have a literature review, it means that you are actually building on other people's work. So you can't tell me that you are reading articles and then you're not going to build on them. And I often see this um, uh, way of people not acknowledging other people's work. It shows how you are not understanding what you are actually doing. Because if you take in every line that you take from other people's research, it shows that you are building from them. You are building from that. That's why you need to acknowledge. That's why sometimes people will be cross at you. They find you doing what is this post-harvest study, but then on your references you are talking about artificial intelligence, what nothing related to the post-harvest. What are you actually building on? Because the other the most important thing of research is you being able to build from other works. Yes, it's a problem tied to a certain area, but the moment you go research and say that I have a method, even the methods you are referencing them, you are building on other people's method. You are not coming with your own methods. So this is key that you understand before that with this work that I'm reading, I at a later stage want to build on it. Maybe you want to support their hypothesis, but also in supporting their hypothesis, you need to check if whatever methods or materials they are presented in uh, their own work. Do you have the similar setup? Because you cannot just say you want to support or challenge. You need to know what you are actually challenging or know what you're actually supporting. If you're supporting or challenging, you need to, if you're challenging, yours has to be a greater thing. If you're supporting, it has to be similar, and then maybe you have another thing, maybe another element that is different. So sometimes as you build, you need to integrate the techniques, the conclusions in your own research, obviously, in the classroom or even with your research lab, those who have research labs. Remember, in whatever that I was saying, it's part of active reading. And these rules, they might look like they are just offish. They are not even in existence. Reason for someone to say that, it will directly show that this person is not continually reading. And I've seen a lot of people who still think that they can do research without reading, who still think that they can be researchers uh, and not read. So the active reading process, it's shown by whatever rules that I was actually discussing. And then let me thank you guys for coming, and then for listening to part of Emmarentia Agriculture Institute intervention research cycle. Uh, so these are the references that I've looked into. And then there are also other ones that are talking about reading research articles effectively. So this is the end of my talk. And if there's anyone who has a question, feel free to ask that question. And then please note that you'll obviously get this discussion or whatever that I was presenting on YouTube. So feel free to go and revisit if you feel like you have missed something. Any other question? A question, guys? Poncho, am I still audible? John? What is the question, John? Um, John is struggling with his mic. Let me give you a few minutes and maybe you will come, John. Apart from if there are no other questions, we can close the session, guys. We will meet again if not if We'll meet again on our next session.
Yeah, I think I fixed it. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I
Yes.
can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. And I'm from MJ. So I wanted to ask in terms of I know it's very crucial to look for sort of facts, or let me say statements that have been established already to support maybe what you'll be talking about. So I wanted to ask if any like could give an advice in terms of um, I've had classmates who were working on topics that they were sort of gaps existing on other literatures that have been published already. So it's that thing of some of the things they're working with. They find it a bit hard to find facts or statements that can support what they want to talk about in terms of their literature review. So I wanted to know how can you try to come about with that issue? Like you're working on something, you're trying to get already established facts to support it, but then you cannot find the already published literature for what you want to talk about. Thank you.
Um, thanks, Sean. I normally ask myself this question. If, for instance, you are actually telling me that you have a research topic, it's a gap, and then you have a certain way of uh, doing your methodology part, and then you are obviously telling me that there are actually less type of work that can actually support what you are what you are what you're trying to research. I will ask yourself this question: where did you get um, the motivation to do that type of work? Because what is actually motivating you um, to do the type of work? I don't know if you get me. You don't necessarily um, have to have this uh, extensive literature, but then because you wrote something and you reference something, it means that you are trying to build from something. Because either way, you wouldn't have had any work to start with. And normally, because this can also affect how people see research. They have this narrow thing of seeing uh, research, uh, uh, John. Let me say that you are researching about cabbage. What can you say about cabbage apart from what is actually related to your work? If you can say something about cabbage, uh, it's part of you gathering information. It's part of you reviewing literature. What is there that is present about cabbage? So it is complex, but it always goes back to what has motivated you into developing this type of work. And sometimes uh, that's why John, it becomes difficult for us uh, 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 to be competitive with other people who are doing research from obviously from outside, because a lot of things we are learning from them. And then if there is a problem that you have seen, you should not engage any problem as emotions. You need to put aside your emotions. Realize that I'm a scholar. Part of me being a scholar, it means that I need to build from actually other people. Because even the type of courses that we are doing, we are actually learning from other people. You For you to learn, maybe let's say soil classification, there had to be maybe Hans journey from previously. It's not something that you can just come, you can just stumble upon. It's something that you need to have maybe as someone who's doing research. Uh, Maybe, John, part of why they are struggling, it could be that is the way they are looking at maybe their literature, or else the other part of them struggling, maybe there is limited information. If there is limited information and also they are sure that there's actually limited information, they need not to force to have an extensive review of literature. If uh, uh, maybe they also need to relook at how they have developed their topic. It can still solve a problem even if it tied in a different way, just to make sure that you form part of the building block, brick, the building brick, yeah. Or maybe we can even talk about it outside this room. Maybe we see you, because you can obviously talk about other people's research topics if they are here. They will say that we're publicly criticizing their work. But if maybe you have time, we can obviously talk about it. Tell me what is the research topic, and then we actually look at various way of looking at it. So it's not really an isolated thing. It has to You have to look at it from various angles. And maybe because there is less experience maybe from the people, that's why maybe it's omitting them from seeing that this is actually uh, can form part of facts or literature. And there are also different literature reviews as part of you doing a literature. Some, but then let me not talk about literature reviews. We are here on reading. Uh, I hope I did answer you, John.
Yes, brother Michael, I did get a few pointers. Thank you for that.
Okay. Um, any other question, guys? Even if it's just a question, a comment, are we going to see you guys in the next session? Are you still coming? Those type of things. Remember, when you say people should ask questions, it's not a forced thing. Yes, later.
Okay, thank you, Chair. It's for the first time when I'm entering this group.
Okay.
I think I was just motivated because I saw some of your posting on LinkedIn. So I was just interested to say, let me tap in and see what is really happening on the group. And I think it's very interesting. And I am willing to be or to form part of the group going forward. And I think with time, maybe I will contribute something useful as well. And I am so pleased and I have learned a lot. So thank you very much.
Okay. That is actually a good contribution from you, Letab. And then please, I've seen your response on your is it email here? You responded to our email. So what I will do, I'm going to text you and then include you on our WhatsApp group. And then if there is a topic, that you want to teach us, we are always willing to give other people a platform to teach. And then also, because teaching, when you teach, you also learn something. So there is that room where you can obviously contribute. So we'll add you on the group, and then you will tell us where you feel like, okay, guys, I've noticed this when it comes to research. Let's engage. Let's have a meeting, and then we are going to give you that platform where you can talk to all of us. And this also goes to all of you who are here. We are all learning from each other. There is no master of everything here. There is no master of anything. Even things like how to write methodology, how to write an introduction, how to cite, how to reference, those type of things. We are all willing to listen to anyone, and this can also be part of you building yourself. Public speaking, we are all struggling with public speaking, but then we are saying that as people, as students coming from limited institutions or background, let's all come together, and then let's engage, let's improve from previously. Anyone, guys, we necessarily don't have to have questions. We can end the session, but if there's anyone who wants to say something, you can say something. And check this video on YouTube. It's probably coming. Without any other questions, let me thank you all for coming to our today's session. And next week, we are still going to have another. If you have something in mind, you can propose it. If you don't, you'll get the invitation as you got the invitation for this one. So enjoy the rest of your evening. Let's meet again next week. And thank you all for coming. Let's push. Let's become better.